Wednesday, February 25, 3 cards for the energies in play today, and we're using the Morgan Greer deck. First card is the Tower, and it's upright. Well, I feel like I've been talking obliquely about a tower moment all week. I think we all know collectively this is a tower moment. Systems collapsing, narratives collapsing, structures that we used to depend on being seen for what they are, folks being tossed out of their protective castles. That much is obvious. And I don't want to be the Channel 7 apocalypse desk here. So what is this card asking us, I think is the question this morning. We know things are falling apart, but what do we do about that? How do we personally integrate this knowledge into our experience? And I think what we need to keep in mind is that tower moments are necessary for the whole system to function. Things can't stay the way they are forever. Even if they feel necessary, everything is temporary. Now, whether this is happening in your own life or in your community, or if we're just talking about the world as a whole, the ground is being prepared for something new. When these old structures that no longer serve start to crumble, it shows us where our trust was misplaced. It shows us where our assumptions might have been faulty. It really calls for an inner reckoning. It tells us we need to notice where our attention and our trust have been misplaced or corrupted or wrongly directed. Like I said, I've been talking about this all week. This feels very redundant, but there's a reason these cards get served up the way they do. So it feels like a signal from the universe to evaluate this moment carefully and rediscover our own sovereignty. Because when everything around you is collapsing, you are still the center of the storm. You're the quiet air in the center of the hurricane. And that's where we can find our safety. Tower moments also remind us that we really exert far less control over our circumstances than we might imagine or than the ego might like to believe. When I say that we are the still center of the hurricane, it means we can't control the chaos around us. All we can control is our reaction to and our orientation to the chaos. That circulation, that chaos is going to happen regardless of what we try to exert upon it. Sometimes we need to stand back and get a wider view of it to see what's going to shake out next so that we can respond to it intelligently. So I would say that this card is reminding us to go inward, find that still center and try to dwell there as much as possible in order to stay grounded in your own sovereignty, in order to stay connected to what is real, because what is real is not the external physical world. What is real is our connection to the divine, which is internal, and our knowing with a capital K of what and who we are truly, which is not of this material world. Let's see what the next card says to maybe smooth this out a little bit or temper it, hopefully. Okay, second card, Page of Swords. Well, that would make sense in the wake of a tower moment. So swords being truth and precision and insight and the ability to see through illusion to the truth. Now, we are all still kind of learning this anew, which makes sense in an information age where misinformation has been overly empowered, perhaps. We need to use a well-refined intellect and discernment in order to orient ourselves correctly. So holding your sword in the middle of this storm as structures are collapsing, which you can see echoed in this card actually in the bottom right corner, which is hidden by my face probably, but there are 4 stone columns. They look kind of like ruins. One of them is toppled over. So you can see that there's an implication of ongoing collapse. Those other 3 can't stand forever. So things are falling as they should when ground is being prepared for new growth. What we can do in the meantime is to inhabit this page role and really step back and say, look, I'm a beginner in this new information ecosystem. We all are. We're all learning where to find truth because it's not always readily apparent. In fact, this whole spread it kind of feels like it's about communication now. It's about using our critical thinking skills to see through the propaganda and the misinformation toward what the real signal is. You can hear I've got obfuscation happening in the background here. But one thing I really like about this card is that he looks ready for the fight. He's ready for the battle. This page feels well prepared. He's well dressed. He's not a newcomer, even though he's a beginner. He's not naive, as we've said with previous pages this week. I think he's found a new resolve and he's ready to take on the challenge at this point. So let's see what card number 3 has to say about it. Ace of Cups, and it is reversed. Well, this is such a lovely card to follow the Page of Swords here. Aces are pure elemental energy, so in this case, emotional energy is associated with cups. You can see in this lovely card, the water is pouring out. There's this lotus blooming at the bottom, so I have a suggestion here that once we navigate this phase, something beautiful can emerge from it. However, the card is reversed, so we have to take that into account. There's a danger of emotional flooding here, a danger that we will not be seeing as clearly as we might otherwise be able to because we're letting the emotional energy lead us. We saw that message earlier in the week as well. Emotions are information. They are like an internal guidance system that help point us toward the truth, but they shouldn't be responded to directly in a lot of instances because sometimes in the moment they can overpower our rational, insightful, incisive, discerning intellect. So they're actually kind of a counterpart to the sword. A sword can't move cleanly through water. If you tried to slice with a sword underwater, you'd get a lot of resistance. So we need to keep emotional impulses in mind, emotional reactivity in mind as we're navigating our new terrain. Whatever's been cleared by this tower collapsing, it's going to take skill to navigate it. And just one more thing about the lotus in this card, because I just love it so much. It's so beautifully rendered, and it's such a peaceful scene. The fact that in the reversal, it's now at the top of the card, kind of shining down on that emotional energy, suggests to me that we can be divinely inspired in our responses. So emotional energy isn't just reactivity like anger and needing to correct a situation immediately, things like that, but it's also the joy that we feel when we begin to see the larger landscape. You know, if we keep our vision very limited into our own little fearful place, if that's what we're in, it's kind of liberating to open that up and go, you know what? When I kind of zoom out and look at the view from space, this all starts to make sense. It's not pleasant, tower moments rarely are, but it does make a certain kind of spiritual sense, evolutionary sense. Truth is coming forth, truth will water the ground, we hope, one hopes, going forward, and lead to a peaceful orientation, both to ourselves and to our community. And again, it's a hopeful card, so I'm not necessarily predicting that as a fact, but I think we can embody that as a way of encouraging it to be the outcome that we seek. So to sum it all up today, the tower upright tells us that structures are destabilizing, illusions about control are being exposed, but instead of panicking, we should recognize this as structural correction. Page of Swords upright is about adopting disciplined curiosity, questioning narratives, slowing down your thinking a little bit so that we can become a beginner again and gather truth rather than reacting. Clarity now requires precision. And finally, the Ace of Cups reversed, guard against emotional flooding. Reactivity clouds our discernment, so regulated feeling becomes intuitive wisdom. So overall, investigate carefully, steady your emotional state, and orient from grounded inner center rather than external volatility. Like, follow, and share. See you tomorrow.